Togbe arrived from the village on the 23rd of May, 2023. And on Wednesday, the 24th of May, when activities have started, and the royal family was to put a lot of things in place, we spent the whole day in a magistrate court in Hu. Very, very, very sad indeed. This is one of the indications, this is one of the issues that came up, as though he knew and stated that revenge is for the weak and peace I leave with you. Early childhood. Okusie Akyemfoli, known in private life as Emmanuel Galevovo Komla Atikwi, was born on the 1st of January 1952 to Reverend Ambrosius Roland Atikwi of Amejope and Mrs. Rosalia Yawa Atikwi ni Anku from Bajeme, all of blessed memory. He was the fourth of their 9 children. He was christened by his maternal grandfather, Emmanuel Gakpara Anku, as Galevovo. Galevovo. Literally meaning different from others. With time, the name prophetically taught he was divinely different, spiritually and physically, from the other siblings right from birth. Education and background and work background. He started his kindergarten and basic education at Biakpa United Primary School, Biakpa, in 1956. He relocated to Agona and Samba to live with maternal uncle, Mr. Boaz Anku, also of blessed memory, to continue his education. Our regional minister is joining. I continue with education, work background. He started his kindergarten and basic education at Biakpa United Primary School, Biakpa, in 1956. He relocated to Agonan Sabah to live with his maternal uncle, Mr. Boaz Anku, also of blessed memory, to continue his education. He later enrolled in Agona and Sabah LA Middle School, Agona and Sabah. When he got to Form 2, he sat for the common entrance examination and performed very well in the examination. He was then admitted to Winneba Secondary School, where he obtained his GCE O-level certificate in 1970. Okusie Galevovo did not relent in his efforts to acquire higher education and proceeded to Wesley Training College, Kumasi, for his post-secondary teacher training education, where he obtained teacher's certificate A in the year 1980. Because he was installed as a chief of Amejope in his early days, after the completion of his teacher training education, he was posted to Amejope LA Junior Secondary School as a teacher to also enable him perform his traditional leadership role in Amejope. The two important and demanding assignments were perfectly performed without any recorded conflicts. I repeat, the two important and demanding assignments were perfectly performed without any recorded conflicts. Okusie Galevovo possesses a higher learning compelled him. Okusie Galevovo's passion for higher learning compelled him to enroll at the University of Education, Winnipeg, to study towards bachelor's degree in English and obtain bachelor's degree in English education in 2008. As part of his aim for self-development and sharpening of his skills as an educationist, he undertook some short courses such as alternative dispute and conflict resolution and obtained a certificate, ADR certificate. He also obtained a certificate in business administration, among others. During his teaching career, he worked assiduously and in and around Abejope. Due to his hard work and attention to detail, he was assigned as one of the circuit supervisors in the Whole West District. He was promoted to the rank of Assistant Director 2 of the Ghana Education Service in the year 2007 until he compulsorily retired in 2015. Due to his traditional duties as the chief of Amejope, he never had the opportunity to transfer his teaching service out of the Avatime traditional area. People he taught at the Amejope Early Junior Secondary School when he was a teacher have attested to the fact that Okusie Akyemfoli V was a disciplinarian and would do his best to impart knowledge in every pupil that passes through him for training. Okusie Akyemfoli V was dedicated to work and time conscious as an educationist, a work he loved to do until he retired. Okusie Akyemfoli V was dedicated to his work and time conscious as an educationist, a work he loved to do until he retired. Family life. Okusie Akyemfoli's quest for a beautiful and supportive woman delayed in his marital life as his search for the perfect woman dragged unnecessarily due to the so-called standards set by the family and the kingmakers. All the women introduced had alleged question marks, and did not pass the test to be the wife of Akyemfoli. As a result, the search continued for a long period until he eventually settled with two women, Mabel and Felicia. He did his best in the circumstances to manage the two women, the two wives. He lived peacefully with the family and was survived by 4 children having painfully loved his beloved Princess Esinam in August 2019. His formative years was warm, humble, brilliant. Galevovo's father, Ambrosius Roland Atikwi, who was a teacher and a catechist of the EP Church and a son of Akyemfoli II, was considered one of the heirs apparent to the Akyemfoli throne. However, he turned down the requests of the kinsmen of the Akyemfoli throne because he wished to pursue his lifelong ambition of becoming a minister of the gospel. And could not have combined his religious and traditional responsibilities. Hence, upon requests for the kinsmen, he decided to put forward Galevovo at a tender age of 12 years to be installed as the Akyemfoli V of Amejope. Knowing fully well that Galevovo's maternal uncle Boaz might not succumb to the idea of having him installed as a chief because he was a brilliant and promising child, a strategic white lie was cooked by the king's makers, and an emergency message was sent to the uncle to inform Galevovo to come home to visit his mother, who had fallen seriously ill and was at the point of death in Bajeme. The mother, Rosalia, was equally kept in the dark in the beautiful conspiracy. The kingmakers, knowing fully well that he will come through Bajeme, waited for him in readiness for the action. On reaching Bajeme, the initial installment rites as Akyemfoli V was performed and was carried neck high to Amejope, as the sole of his feet was not to touch the ground from thence. Since he was very young at the time of installment, the kingmakers appointed a regent, one of his paternal uncles, Okusie George Odoko Atikwi, of blessed memory, to hold the fort until he finished his education and returned to Amejope. Okusie Akyemfoli V completed his teacher training education in 1980. He came back home and assumed fully the traditional responsibilities as the Akyemfoli V of Amejope. He ruled for 55 years as the chief of Amejope and senior divisional chief of Avatime traditional area, and would be considered as one of the longest surviving traditional rulers, not only in Amejope, but the entire traditional area. Achievements. Okusie Galevovo has a symbol of sincerity and integrity. His desire was to make Amejope a beacon of a noble and peaceful community, not only in the area, but in Ghana. He exhibited high sense of responsibility by putting everything he had at the disposal of the Amejope community. At meetings of the kinsmen, Okusie always tried to create a peaceful and tranquil atmosphere. When tempers went high among clan chiefs, really, the quality of a man's life is in the direct proportion to his commitment to excellence, regardless of his chosen field of endeavors. Under his leadership as the chief of Amejope, almost all clan disputes and other matters were discussed amicably and valuable decisions were taken. His advice to the citizens of Amejope at all times, particularly during festive endeavors, was, we should see ourselves as one people from one father and one mother. I repeat. His advice to the citizens of Amejope at all times, particularly during festive endeavors, was, we should see ourselves as one people from one father and one mother. Good neighborliness had been his watchword when dealing with others. He would rebuke when the need arises. He would correct when there were mistakes. Indeed, Okusie could be described as a unifier, a teacher, a good leader, and above all, peacemaker. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'll start from the most appealing part of his life story. His advice to the citizens of Amejope at all times, particularly during festive endeavors, was, we should see ourselves as one people from one father and one mother. Good neighborliness had been his watchword. When dealing with others, he would rebuke when the need arises. He would correct when there were mistakes. Indeed, Okusie could be described as a unifier, a teacher, a good leader, and above all, peacemaker. Amejope has lost a man who was an instrument of love, forgiveness, and faith. He brought hope when despair abounded, light when darkness set in, and joy when sadness stared at us. Development is a phase. Development is a phased concept involving, among others, incubation, process, and completion. Incubation, which is critical in any developmental project, requires tact, warmth, and follow-up to reassure the investors, whether public or private, of the readiness of the community for the project. follow-up were founded through his personal savings. In some cases, like the tea project, the family land was donated for the purpose. All the projects like the community clinic, which was started recently, taken over by the government, was a community project in collaboration with the Christian Assembly. The Akyemfoli Technical School, also recently taken over by the government, was purely a community private school founded several years by the community. But for his love for education, the project would not have seen the light of day. The Akyemfoli Water Project, which has become a Ghana Water Company project Ghana Water Company revenue generation project, started off as a community water project in collaboration with Danida. I contested a statement when we were looking at the development of the community secondary school. Since I have the privilege to read the life story, I would put it across. At the time when the school had difficulty in paying salaries of teachers then recruited to teach in that school, Okusie Akyemfoli for 6 months dedicated 50% of his monthly salary to ensure that teachers of the school received some stipend. The Frog Project, the preservation of the endangered flora and fauna, the GBC TV station mast, the African Youth Communal Work, the Girl Guides projects, to mention but a few, and the recent Canopy Walkway, which has become a national tourist attraction, and the pride of Amejope and Afatime was incubated in his palace. The investor can attest to the fact that the assurances he received from Okusie was a catalyst that propelled him to start the project. Unfortunately, he did not even live to see the commissioning of this project. Okusie, with his selfless attitude, would take the initiative to organize water tankers from Ho to Amejope during period of acute water shortage in the dry season from his personal savings. For all this, among others, we, the Amejope citizens, agree with the philosopher William James that the great use of one's life is to spend it for something that will outlast it. For the value of life is not by its duration, but its donation. I repeat. For all this, among others, we, the Amejope citizens, agree with the philosopher William James that the great use of one's life is to spend it for something that will outlast it. For the value of life is not by its duration, but its donation. Words are of material comfort, and cannot soften the grief for what the death of Okusie Akyemfoli V has inflicted on the Amejope in particular and Afatime traditional area at large. Citations and awards. Okusie, for his selfless and exemplary service, received several awards and citations. Notable among them are Certificate of Honor for Exemplary Leadership, Tremendous Dedication and Service Award by Amejope Development Association, Certificate of Honor for Teamwork and Team Building, Managing, Supervision and Monitoring by Ghana Education Service, Certificate of Achievement, Act of Narrative Management, Quality Life Company Learning Organization by MACTI, Certificate of Honor in Leadership, Managing Supervision, Monitoring and Certificate Management, Certificate of Participation, Alternative Dispute and Conflict Resolution, Certificate of Honor for Unwavering Commitment, Diligence, Love, Devotion, and Industrial Sense of Purpose. That was given by the Africa United Youth Association. Last days. Okusie was bubbly until he suddenly took ill somewhere in 2017. He seemed to have been responding to treatment. Unfortunately, the illness degenerated with Unfortunately, the illness degenerated with excruciating pain for almost a year. He had a strong will to recover and live, but alas, at 11:58 p.m. on the 25th of September 2019, the Creator called him to peaceful, eternal rest. Okusie Akyemfoli V, Galevovo, you have done the very best in the ways you knew how, till the end, and will forever stand tall amongst your peers. Your life and what you stood for was what you stood for is vindicated. Okusie Galevovo, you have done the very best in the ways you knew how, till the end, and forever you stand tall amidst your peers. Your life and what you stood for is vindicated. When the race of life is run, the Father would grant the word, one rest forever. When the heart of sorrow tried feels at length its storms subside and brings as well
where all tears are dried, joy forevermore. Wagamolo Kepane. Kepane Bakatiwa Pete